All right, welcome back to the channel. So it seems like, at least to me, everything is back right in boxing, and Canelo Alvarez is fighting on Showtime. Absolutely exciting press conference between him and Caleb Plant, but more things that I think bode well for the middleweights and getting a lot of really competitive fights are things that he said after he and Caleb Plant had their slapping match. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, as you know, Canelo Alvarez is probably the biggest name in boxing right now. At least that's what everybody says. And hopefully this fight with he and Caleb Plant will be an exciting event, and there'll be a lot of people watching it. So far with the press conference, I didn't get a chance to do a video on the press conference, the day that it happened. But, there was a lot of electricity and a lot of conversation that took place after Caleb Plant and Canelo Alvarez went at each other like that. So, hopefully that energy and all that will carry through to the fight and it'll be really successful. And then thereafter, hopefully we'll be able to get a lot more fights in that 160 to 168 pound division. Canelo Alvarez himself, was asked about what he was going to do after the Caleb Plant fight, and he said that he would be willing to fight the other PBC fighters, and they said they got a lot of fighters over there. Why not do those fights? And of course, you know who those guys are. Those guys are Jermall Charlo, who's at 160 pounds. You also have, Errol Spence Jr., who's down at 147 pounds, who said that he wanted to move up and fight Canelo Alvarez. So, I really think that this is a very, very good thing. And hopefully it'll put about a lot of excitement back in boxing. Canelo Alvarez, the reason in the beginning of the video that I said Canelo Alvarez is thought to be the biggest, name in boxing is because really over the last several years, he's not been available to the boxing public by and large, fighting on DAZN. And there haven't been a lot of really exciting fights that have taken place, which is one of the reasons why I'm telling you, I think that Caleb Plant has a better chance against Canelo Alvarez, than people think he does, because, although I know that Canelo Alvarez is an excellent fighter, really Canelo Alvarez I don't think he's really been fighting anybody, that is a top-notch fighter in a while. And, he could absolutely positively get caught slipping by Caleb Plant. I'm telling you, Caleb Plant is not Billy Joe Saunders. He is not Callum Smith and Rocky Fielding and these guys that came out of the UK and that were fighting Canelo Alvarez on DAZN. At the very least, the difference between the two of them is Caleb Plant's attitude, and a lot of things that Caleb Plant has said in the press conference I think are very true. That people tend to underestimate him because they don't know who he is. But I've been watching Caleb Plant pretty closely throughout his career, and I'm telling you, that guy has that's not a charade that he's putting on when he was going at Canelo Alvarez. What he was really trying to do is tell Canelo Alvarez and show Canelo Alvarez that he's not afraid of him, that that he was coming to win and really make a fight of it. And I think that's something that I don't know if Canelo Alvarez really expected that. He didn't take it very well, and actually with all of that stuff that happened, I think that the winner of all that battle that went on at the press conference was probably Caleb Plant, because Caleb Plant clearly got under the skin of Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez was the first person to push. He was the first person to really throw a punch. Some people say that left hook from Caleb Plant was a real punch. I don't know. I think he threw that punch a little bit short, and then Canelo Alvarez really responded, and they got into that mix. Canelo Alvarez was talking about how upset he was that Caleb Plant was using it. He was saying MF to him and all of that stuff. And we know that is just, enough to know that he's not really talking about your mother. He's really talking about you and calling you a name. Canelo Alvarez kind of hid behind the whole thing about him making fun of his mother. But by and large, looking at that scenario, I really think that it's Caleb Plant that got under the skin of of Canelo Alvarez. So it may force Canelo Alvarez to try to do too much, try to get, and be a little bit more overly aggressive or whatever at Caleb Plant, and give Caleb Plant, opportunities to take advantage. But, by and large, I really am, obviously if I think who's going to win the fight, the biggest percentage chance winner, the guy that I'll be leaning towards would be Canelo Alvarez, because, really and truly, Canelo Alvarez is no joke in the ring. And I would also say that about pretty much anybody that that Canelo Alvarez is fighting in that 160 to 168 pound range. I would give him the advantage the advantage in going in the fight. But you got to remember that Canelo Alvarez is not some guy that is just this undefeatable fighter. If you look back at the Erislandy Lara fight, the Austin Trout fight, definitely the Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight, speed is this guy's Achilles, and that's something that each one of the guys that I mentioned, really has, and has, the foot speed advantage over Canelo Alvarez, and those things can come into play. When Canelo Alvarez was at DAZN though, and I'm really hoping he doesn't go back to DAZN. I'm not quite sure what there is that DAZN has to offer. He doesn't want the Gennady Golovkin fight. They don't really have big name middleweight fighters over there. He pretty much ran through all of the guys that Eddie Hearn had. So I'm not, when we talk about what's going to go on after this particular fight, and I'll say it like I said before he signed with DAZN, most of the work that Canelo Alvarez really has is over there with the PBC. So I'm happy with Canelo Alvarez saying that he believes he's a free agent, right? Or he is a free agent, so he can take fights with whoever he wants to take the fights with. But if you have a bunch of really competitive fights and networks that are willing to put you on pay-per-view, it seems like that would be the direction that he would go more than likely. So after the Caleb Plant fight, what I'm really hoping is that we can get to see the fight with Jermall Charlo. I know the Errol Spence Jr. fight is probably a ways off, but he actually was asked about both of those guys, and said that he would be open to fighting these guys, and and I think that is a really, really good thing. Canelo Alvarez, I really do get on Canelo Alvarez for the performance enhancing drug, but the fact that, and I do believe that he's still on performance enhancing drugs. I mean, I'm looking at the guy; he's just a big mound of muscle. That's what it looks like to me. But outside of that, when I set that to the side, I do know that he's a very, very exciting fighter to watch. He's a very, very skilled fighter. And the fact that and he brings a lot of entertainment to the game, as long as he's actually fighting somebody. And for the last couple years, it was like, he's just like somebody that was a big name but wasn't giving anybody any big fights. And that's what I'm hoping to see over the next couple years in boxing, is more of people making big fights, and not just being excited that you get to see a big name in a one-sided fight, because that's pretty much what Canelo Alvarez has been doing over the last year. So him saying that he's being over there at Showtime, having this really exciting kickoff to his fight with Caleb Plant, hopefully that'll mean that they do good sales and all that good stuff, and we'll be able to see really good fights. Because despite the fact that he's on the performance enhancing drug aspect of it, I think it's fair to say Canelo Alvarez isn't going anywhere, because the WBC and these sanctioning bodies ain't trying to take him anywhere. So if that's the case, at least we get to see him in some good fights. Anyway, so that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section, and with that, I'm out. Peace.